talent a little bit more.
Yep. At this point, we can use the schools. I think what we've done typically in the past is we have the rec practices at talent and also the instructional on Saturday mornings.
I guess our concern this year, just already the last meeting, we had what do we have, 5 or 6 different groups coming in here and asking to use the facility. So we just want to make sure that you get on the docket.
Yep.
And obviously there's going to be room for basketball, but we just want you to understand that there's going to be some conflicts and we're going to have to work around it.
Yeah. And do you guys want like what we've done typically in the past is Monday through Friday, we have, I think, from 5 to 9 p.m. for practices. And that would be from November through February, through the end of February. So I think it's like November 1st through February 25th, something like that.
Okay.
And then Saturday mornings you usually had.
Yep. From 8 to 12 for instructional.
And did you find yourself in there every single one of those days from those times, or
instructional every Saturday? Yeah.
No, but during the week.
Then during the week, most of the times were used. It was typically like Friday night would be the one
that's open.
Night. Yeah. It all depends on the number of teams.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like the big thing is that, I mean, I think the thing that sparked this whole discussion last week was Cub Scouts came in, not Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts came in, requested to use it on Wednesdays.
Cub Scouts it was.
Yeah. What's Cub Scouts?
Cub Scouts.
Oh, it was my bad.
Okay.
And then like already on the agenda, we have wrestling coming in, requesting to use it a night. So it becomes, I think, more of a how much do you like? I know this is a pure guessing game right now because tryouts aren't until for 2 more signups aren't until the end of October. Tryouts aren't until then, so it's pretty much a guessing game. But the thing we're trying to figure out, or I think we would need to know, is if we put a wrestling in there 2 hours a week on Mondays and put Cub Scouts in there for another couple on a Wednesday every once a month, how much is this going to affect how much time you need? Or like if you're going to need it all 4 hours for 5 nights, then this is going to becomes an issue. We don't want you losing out because we're already approving it.
Yep.
And in the past, it's been a rotating quarterly request. Everyone figured out. And at this point, because of the demand for talent, because of the lack of other facilities around town or outside of town still being available because of COVID, people are coming in earlier.
Yep. So,
I mean, I think what we're trying to do is shore up, how many hours we're using last year. Is Fridays may have to be more of an option. I know no one ever wants to practice on a Friday. Coaches don't want to do it. Parents don't want to do it, but it may have to be one of those things where someone's going to get stuck doing it either, maybe not all night, but 5 to 6, 6 to 7 or something.
Yeah. And I think, it's hard to tell, like you said, until we know the number of teams. Like that would be the expectation that we'd have 10 rec teams. And I mean, we've seen the numbers kind of going down over the past, 3 or 4 years. I think last real season that we had 2 years ago for rec, I think there were maybe 7 or 8 total teams.
Yeah. How many did you have last year?
None.
You didn't play?
We played just travel season.
Okay.
And we had no place to practice.
I mean, again, it's all, the last couple of years, especially school years during that rec age group is probably some of the smaller numbers we've seen in town.
Yeah.
So you never know, like your 3-4 could all of a sudden like jump up.
Exactly.
But, it's just kind of a guess. Like if we don't want to block everything off. So I think it's just trying to figure out those needs are still going to be the same. And if there's a guesstimate of teams, then it probably helps us say, okay, this is how many hours. And the other thing was we didn't know about the schools.
Well, that's what I was going to say is too, that's the other issue that we potentially could have, at some point we don't know, right? Like does the school shut us down from being able to use LMS, right? Like that's the only facility that we have. And if that's the case, then, we would need the time for our travel team. So essentially like what you have is, however many rec teams that are all in town. And then the travel teams are the ones that, same age groups that, they play games on the weekends outside of town. So.
And are you going to be the point person for basketball to rec moving forward, so like to figure out these schedules, or is there going to be a more appropriate person?
Not completely sure. No one else could make it tonight. So
Oh, okay.
So you're the
but
talking
it's
head.
fine for now. Yeah.
Okay.
I've done it in the past. I've done all the scheduling. Like
Okay.
Right now I'm the travel coordinator, but I've done the rec coordinating as well.
So when you know who that is, litchfieldnh.com. And that way we can just figure out who we're talking to.
Yeah. And it might be, like I said, it might be me, but what we can do too is we can figure out, right? Like once our registration period is over, we can get back to you guys, with kind of a more refined number of like, hey, here are the number of teams that we have, here are what the practice times that we'd request would be, if that makes.
And is registration open now?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when will registration close?
For rec, I think it's scheduled to close at the end of the month.
Okay. September or
That's
October? This month?
October, yeah.
Next month. Okay, perfect. Yeah, as we're trying to, things are very chaotic from last year. And we had a lot of people coming towards us, all asking to use it, and they look like it's empty.
Right.
It's like, well, it's not usually empty.
Right,
and
yeah.
We don't know who's going to come back. We're starting to see the teams all, leagues come back.
Yeah.
We don't know how much, how many. We still have our capacity at Town Hall restricted to 50.
Mhm.
So that's something else we'll also have to discuss, but which means there can't be a lot of parents there and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
typically, I
It's
mean,
not too bad
you have 5 to 10 on a
Yeah.
team. So
during the practices.
Does it make sense to submit your best guess at the schedule now and refine it
yeah,
at
so
the end?
and what I stated earlier, I think that's what we would request. I think that Mike Harney had sent an email at one point.
Yeah, we'll have to look. Yeah, if you could talk to them, try to get in, send us in an official request. You can get it off the webpage so that we could actually put it down on the calendar. We could pencil you in, I guess you could say.
So what do we have to do for?
Right now, you got the COI already. I am sure you're already on the approved camp list or whatever they call it. So now it's just the facilities and field request. And
Is
just-
that on
that's
the
online?
website?
It's on litchfieldrec.com and you'll see the facilities and field requests. You've filled it out before and it's just basically talent hall,
Yep.
put down the days you want, the times you're trying to get in there. And then we'll put it on the schedule. And then when we start getting more people, like we have scouts, etc., we'll try to work with you to try to arrange it as much as possible. But we're trying to figure out who's on the fields, who's in the buildings, at what time. Some of them's been very vague. Some of the requests have been very vague, like we want to use a field from now until we get off it, which doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, with last year it was weird.
Yeah.
And I know every other year we were kind of just on the schedule from
Right, because it was
beginning
once
of
you're in the rotations, it's so much easier. But now we're
Yeah,
guessing.
it's like a restart. So,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, awesome, Steve. Thank you for coming in. Any other questions for Steve? This isn't something that we have to vote on because we don't have an official request, but we just wanted to have you come in forward and try to give us as
So
much information.
we'll fill that out. So we'll fill that
That'd be
out,
awesome.
and then we'll let you guys know who the point person will be.
Awesome.
That'd be
But in the meantime, we have a general email that you guys, like I think Mike, you had sent to.
Yeah, I sent it right to the board email. Like, Andy 4 or 5 years ago had set up those rec emails, like, so there was always one place to send it to. But I think yours has been, I think whoever had access to it lost it somewhere in the shovel.
Yeah.
So maybe we should set up, for now we can use the board email.
Yep.
But maybe we should set up another email address that, in the end might just forward to your board email.
Yep.
But at least it's something in line with the other rec emails we've set up for other sports organizations.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
That works.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
I have a
Appreciate
list
it.
of contacts for, at least from last year, for every organization that I found. So I'll try to keep that updated as I go along.
Perfect.
As I get them out, switch them out. Everybody has access to it.
All right, next up, LGSL Litchfield Girls Softball League fall season. Mr. Steven Weber, looking to use Roy Memorial Park Fields 1 and 2. Sunday games 11 a.m. Tuesday and Wednesday practices 5 to 7 p.m. We have the certificate of insurance as well as the current New Hampshire Youth Skills Camp already. So before we go into discussion, I will like
And
a
the schedule.
motion. And the schedule.
In the
Yes.
schedule.
Look at you showing off.
I'll make a motion to approve Litchfield Youth Softball League to use Roy Memorial Parks Fields 1 and 2 on the requested dates and times.
I'll second.
Mike. All right, so the motion has been moved and seconded to approve the request from Litchfield Girls Softball to hold their fall season at Roy Memorial Fields 1 and 2 for games on Sunday at 11 a.m. Practices on Tuesday and Wednesday. Practice at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will open it up for discussion.
Just so you know, we're ending October 24th.
There, Friday
So
night
we
game
don't-
in there too somewhere.
I think there might be a Friday for the 8U team.
Yeah.
It's in the schedule, but yeah.
How do I put that
Yeah,
down?
so we only have 4 more weeks left.
4 more weeks left.
Then it gets dark.
It's already getting dark.
At 6:30.
Yeah.
Ending on the 24th. Would that be your game, right?
That's the last game. Yeah, it's on the 24th.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
All right, opposed? Abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0-1. With Mr. Weber abstaining. All right, LBA, Litchfield Basketball Association.
Baseball.
Winter
Baseball.
Baseball Association. It's my age. New glasses already. Litchfield Baseball Association Winter Skills Clinic. Mr. Stephen Weber, Talent Hall, Sundays, 1/9/2021 through 3/13/2022, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., 25 kids per session. We have the certificate of insurance as well as New Hampshire Youth Skills Camp. I assume there's the schedule as well.
7 to 11 Sunday mornings.
Okay.
It's what it's been for the last, Andy, 4 years?
Yeah.
I have a motion.
I'll move to accept the request by Litchfield Baseball Association for Town Hall from January 9th through March 13th, 2022.
Second.
All right. The motion has been moved and seconded to approve the request for the Litchfield Baseball Association to hold their winter skills clinic inside Talent Hall on Sundays, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. from 1/9/2021 to 3/13/2022. Do we have any discussion?
We'll have to remind everyone they need to renew the camp licenses before 2022.
It's, you said the baseball is on a 2-year cycle?
That's for our background checks.
Background checks. Everybody's 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, actually, soccer went to 1.
Did they really?
But we were forced to go to 1.
They're not using NCSI or wherever it is anymore?
It's through the state.
Through the state, yeah.
The skills camps are every year.
Really? Okay, I
Yeah,
thought
I
they
mean,
were one and the
it's
same.
$20, I think. Or $25.
Insurance too, isn't it? Or is
Insurance is every year. If
Yeah.
you look at our rider for baseball, it ends in February of next year. So through Babe Ruth, when you do it, it's always February to February. Softball's the same thing because it's a Babe Ruth organization.
You mean lacrosse is the same time frame for that?
Yeah, February.
Yeah.
For the riders. So
I thought when you did the skills camp, they did the background check. at the
no,
same time.
skills camp just basically says you have a background check policy in place.
Okay.
So through softball and baseball, we use sports sign up play or SI play. And within that, they're tied into NCSI. So when a coach goes to register, it already pushes, they have to do abuse training and they have to do a background check. And they're valid for every 2 years.
Okay. Technical learning. All right. Any other discussion? Now let's go for a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 6-0-1 with Mr. Weber abstaining.
Is there 8 of us?
Yeah, with only 7 voting.
Okay, sorry.
Jeff has been appointed a full member as Andy is absent tonight.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, Litchfield Lacrosse Fall Skills Camp, Sawmill Brook Park, Sundays 10:03 to 10:24, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We already have the COI in the camp information. Josh made an error when he was sending in the field request, and he actually sent it to the wrong email. We have the current field request now. So this is just really almost clerical. I think they've already started, right? No, they have not started next week. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion to accept Litchfield Lacrosse using Sawmill Park on the dates, or in between the dates of 10/3 and 10/24 on Sunday mornings from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m.
I need a second.
A second.
Thank you. All right. The motion has been moved and seconded to approve the request for Litchfield Lacrosse Fall Skills Camp to use Sawmill Brook Park, Sawmill Brook Fields on Sundays, 10/3 through 10/24, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now we'll open it up for discussion.
Mike, they checked with soccer. It's good.
As far as I know. Yeah, I think Josh talked to Brian about it.
Okay.
So, and I mean, honestly, there's again plenty of room down there, so it's
Right.
just a matter of finding a spot.
Okay.
It won't be on. I mean, they won't be on the actual fields. So I mean, I'll probably reach out to Josh and just ask him to try to use the end near the board, rather than the area when you first walk on and everyone wants to use it, since it's just been reseeded, and just trying to stay off it until we can.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same thing. Are you aware of any conflicts? All right. Any other discussions? All right. The vote in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 7-0-0. Friends of Wrestling. We did have an email request to use Talent Hall. Said as soon as possible through March 2022, Mondays 5 to 8 p.m. I responded with our requirements. There's also some questions around insurance. They currently use the gym at the school. I'm not too sure what's going on there. I don't know if the school originally denied and now may have pulled it and allowed them to use it, but she's not here tonight, so I don't know how we could proceed. It's 5 to 8 p.m.
I can reach out to Amy if you want, Steve, to find out what's going on.
Find out, yeah, see if they're back in school. She said they used to use the gym right after the boys would do the high school boys would do their wrestling.
Yeah.
So I would assume that would be the preferred method.
Yeah, it's just with if basketball is going to be in there, Monday through Friday, it's we're starting to double book this.
So I'll reach out to Amy and Pat and find out what their intent is.
Yeah. And I assume that in the past they didn't have to have insurance or anything else because she seemed questionable on that. Thank you, Steve.
I know they are registered for the skills camp.
Yeah, you would think that would be a sport that they would demand.
And their
Insurance.
but their insurance, I think, is through somebody else.
Gotcha.
All right. Trunk or treat. Amy Anderson was seeking permission to hold a trunk or treat event for the little ones in town, Sunday, October 31st at 10 to 11 a.m. She's looking to hold it in the parking lot at Roy Memorial Park. I checked the calendar. There is nothing on the calendar at that time. I also reminded her that we do not reserve parking lots, so there is nothing we have to move on here. It's just purely informational. So on Sunday, October 31st, between 10 and 11 a.m., there will be a trunk or treat event going on at Roy Memorial Park. Moving on to new business.
We used to do that at the town offices here.
Yeah, I thought they did. Maybe they were for older kids. Shit, these are the little ones.
They used to do it here, and then they moved down there a few years ago.
Okay. So I remember it used to be up here.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think they're just looking for as much room or as central in town as they can.
Did you go trick or treat?
One question before we move on.
Sure.
That I sent around late. The Halloween tournament for soccer.
Oh yeah.
Does the soccer need to put in a new field request? The field request already covers that time. Is it just a matter of?
I think if the original field request included that time, I don't.
Okay.
There's no
Because last year we talked about making sure that everyone was notified because the rec commission didn't know last year. So
Right, that's
right now, so I mean, just to let everyone know, right now the Halloween tournament scheduled for October 6th. Not October, November 6th, Saturday, November 6th, with a rain date of November 7th. Permissions already been granted by both the police department and the fire department.
Is this the one where it's a lot of people from out of town and all that stuff?
Yes.
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
that
the
was
special meeting for last
that
year.
was the big holdup.
That was the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's covered under the original request, I don't think we can really do much about it because we already approved it. But bringing it in and reminding us, I think it definitely is helpful for us to understand. Of course, last year was
Oh yeah, last year was
situation.
unique.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, new business, field maintenance RFP, Mr. Ruggles. I did speak with Troy Brown on this topic, and we believe we should solicit bids from companies opposed to the old school method of posting RFP in local print because nobody reads newspaper. Do we need to rewrite the RFP, or do you believe that the RFP verbiage is sufficient to send out and solicit bids?
Yeah, I think it's close. There might be a couple things that we want to look at. If there was anything this year that anybody felt like we missed, or I just want to talk about it with the group before we just send it out again. Also, we need to update the times. When it's due, when bids will be opened. And also, are we going to keep it the same? Are we going to keep it mowing and trimming of, treatment of basically the irrigated areas versus the non-irrigated areas? Like, obviously you're not going to put preventative maintenance, measures down on the river access,
Right.
So I just want to touch base on that, and, I don't know how the group feels about maybe possibly moving to solicit bids for the agronomics versus the mowing itself. The cost of, we talked about this, the cost of, fertilizers and
Sky high.
all that stuff have
A bag that used to be $40 is now $82.
it's doubled in some cases. It's
Oh, it's crazy right now.
Yeah.
Price point, everything's up.
Now, the RFP we rewrote, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we kind of did split it. Is it kind of split in that sense?
Yeah. So we have it currently as recreational mowing maintenance and mowing and trimming of other recreational areas. So we had split it that way in the past.
If I remember, we kept them together because it could lead to finger pointing over, something goes wrong, something's not growing right,
Yep.
It could lead to a lot of finger pointing. Well, you're not using the right fertilizer, you're not cutting it right, or you're doing this, you're doing that.
I put it down today. You cut this afternoon. You didn't do me any favors.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It would take a lot more coordination if you were to separate it. That's for sure.
I'm saying we split it where if it's irrigated and treated, the company will be cutting it too. Because the issue that we had is a lot of people didn't want to use the same equipment on the grass that they use to cut sawmills, parking lot or river
Or river
access.
access, yeah.
And
that makes sense.
another issue that Mike has brought up in this year is, we've had a lot of issues with the areas around the fields,
Right.
and how do we include those into this RFP? Do we need to start looking into that? It may be extra cost, but if the town doesn't have the capabilities to get to it because they're short staffed or whatever reasons, then we need to figure out a way to maintain those areas.
Where do we stand on the discussion about getting a tractor or something to do it?
It's something that we could bring up again.
Because if we're going to do that, then maybe we don't need to hire somebody to do the perimeter. But if we're going to hire somebody to do the perimeter, then that maybe we don't, that sort of reduces the need to have a vehicle of our own.
And looking where we're at in the budget, do we have extra funds in the budget that we can go get a mower?
Yeah. And then save the
Some
money.
of them use it, but can we get the piece of
There was
equipment?
there was a proposal from Conservation Commission on splitting a tractor
Mhm.
that has a brush hog mower on the back, which I think would be beneficial to both groups.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to use a finish mower on cutting the perimeter of Sawmill Park,
No.
or at River Access.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't make sense. So that could be something that we consider. The argument was, how do you transport it? How do you make sure people are using it correctly? How do you get them trained?
Where do you store it?
Insurance? Where do you store it?
So how much, like what you're talking about, perimeters of park, I know coming out of the river access, that can grow pretty high and you can't see when you're exiting unless someone goes over and mows it. But I'm assuming if it gets that high, that no one is assigned to the town or whoever we hire, or
Who do
like-
we have? Do we have anyone doing river access this year? Like, was it the
It's
town?
supposed to.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
part of
It's
the.
part of the RFP.
The RFP.
It is, but there's.
But he
a
doesn't
lot
do
of
he
stuff
doesn't do
going
the
on
along the road and the blind spot. He does.
So along the road is state property, so it'd be up to the state in order to
Okay.
mow it there.
But he is supposed to cut the grass along the perimeter and around the rocks, kind of just like at Sawmill outside, but it's neglected. That's why we talked about splitting it. I'd rather have a professional dedicated to treating the grass. And if it's irrigated and we're treating the grass, make the fields look really nice. And, we'll hire off or get somebody else to trim the scrub on the edges.
I think wasn't it split? Didn't we split that portion last year?
It was split, but they were
Same.
both awarded to the
Same
same
individual.
contract
Right.
this year.
So, splitting it off, like you could, if you made it a slightly bigger job, which is what we didn't do last year. Like if we took river access and then put it with the exterior mowing of whatever the other fields, whatever
Town
fields we
hall,
found,
tennis
right.
courts.
And that we push that there and then keep the irrigated areas, maintenance, upkeep, fertilization, everything, mowing still under that portion. Would that maybe attract a little bit more? Because now we're making it a little bit bigger and different as opposed to before where it was just kind of like, yeah, we're going to wrap it up and just kind of.
Because there are areas that don't get hit. You get around Sawmills tennis courts, they never get hit. Around the parking lot. You go to Corning, the whole hill coming back down by the concession stand and where the
Yeah,
beaches are,
it's-
that never gets mowed.
Right.
Now that we're over Jeff Lane, we have the parking lot across the road. We're going to start getting grass growing around the edges of that. That should be put in as
Right.
part of that. So we do have a lot of areas that aren't going to be irrigated that need to be addressed.
I mean, I could take a crack this week at, defining those areas, for each field. I may need some input because I don't go to every field all the time. So, I'll take a crack. I'll do some Google Earth shots and highlight them. And
Who does the access road going in for Innis? The right and left side of that.
Right. That's
Well, here's the interesting thing. Like maybe we should not only include mowing, but some sort of trimming.
Yes, string trim.
Because like the hedges, like on the fences and stuff. Like I'm sure that there's stuff growing. I haven't been at Corning in a while. But I'm sure
On
there's
that
stuff growing
backfield, yes.
on
Yeah.
all over the like up the fence and everything. So maybe it's a bigger contract to include that as well. Maybe term it general landscaping, and that takes care of not only those areas which aren't treated, but the hedges and the
Well,
fences.
and it's the back part is growing onto the field,
right.
and overtaking it, and
I
it
mean,
needs to be.
and the back part isn't even my biggest thing is like along that whole fence line. The fence is just
Yeah.
the bushes and everything just creeping on.
Got to be
We
able to
wanna be
drive
too.
on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
One pass.
Brush hog back
I know
there or
Jeff
something.
Lanes has the same problem. Like I was out there and all the brush was coming up behind the fence into the dugout. So I took a lot of time and we
clear it
whacked it
out.
all out, but it's, technically it's not part of our proposal as we have it,
Does it make
So-
sense to include that?
Yeah, maybe like just call it a 5-foot swath outside the fences needs to be cleared.
To me, it helps justify a tractor with brush hog on the back.
Yeah, some of those spots you're not going to get around though. It's like,
Yeah, especially in the backfield of corning.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
much you can do.
that's-
There's some trees coming up. You have to take the trees down. Leave it
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah, if you could split it up, look at it, see what you could do, and
Yeah.
then we'll solicit some people. We'll get the professionals in here. I said this a couple of years ago too. We may be underbidding ourselves on our fields. I'd rather a professional come in and say, "This is what it's really going to cost," and all this added area is going to be a little bit more.
And we need to get it done soon because we're in budget season right now. So we have to plug in the right line item for it.
Yeah, we
So-
already know chemicals have doubled in some instances.
Yeah, I
Then
mean,
let's set it
personally, I
down.
think that line's going to go up a lot.
let's set a deadline on ourselves for a final
Next.
draft for next meeting and get it to Troy for
Yeah.
submission.
So is there anything in the budget for tractor or sharing a tractor, or it's only been discussion?
It's been discussion, and the budget season is now, so I could dig a little bit deeper. So there is possible. It really depends on what the budget committee does to us, but some of it is the deck repair on the back of Talent. We slated $8,000 for, and we're going to be about $4,000. So that's some money. Moving the gate isn't going to happen. So we're bottom line budget. So we should be able to use that. The moving the gate and the deck on Talent was encumbered. So if we don't utilize that money this year, it goes back to the town.
We can re-encumber again.
Could we? I thought you could only do it once.
We can re-encumber.
Or
Just
just
gotta
think
do it
for
ahead of
other
time.
projects, future projects that we don't even know about?
Yeah.
Beyond just the mowing, I think, was it the trail committee put in new trails last year? I think it was on rec property off the Litchfield Forest when we cut new trails.
No, that was just town property.
Or that was town?
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't rec.
Yeah, it wasn't
But
rec.
everybody just brought like their own equipment, but you're always bringing your own equipment. There's a lot of wear and tear on it when you're.
Yeah, we rented
And you know it well.
So.
Just saying, can you get your tractor and get them off my?
I know, yeah, I'm like, yeah, 2 years old and we need another one. But I just think even for future projects, if there's something we wanted to do at Dara, or I know they're expensive. And I know nobody wants to take on the extra mowing themselves by having it, but
But I think if we share it,
yeah,
and most of us, we need a trailer. Most of us have some kind of vehicle to tow it around.
Do we have any kind of a number from the Conservation Commission if they wanted us to share?
So,
Chair back. Yeah.
so yeah, we're still really in discussion about what we want to do because we are looking at the tractor, but we're also looking at maybe an ATV, maybe a ride-on lawnmower of a zero turn. But the one Jason Brennan was kind of spearheading the tractor, and that was like $30,000. So it looks like 15 G's each.
Brand new.
Buy it. So
Does that include the brush hog, or is that just the tractor?
That's
that would just be the tractor. But I remember this is the one he showed me that was $30,000. That wasn't the smallest loader front tractor that they offered. So it's possible that there's a smaller model. So that cost, I don't think it's set in stone. So there could be some variation on that. Might be
Yeah, and you can actually put it out to bid.
Yeah.
Solicit bids for that, and you could probably get a whole lot better deal than $30,000.
Yeah.
And we also go out and see if there's any municipal bids out there for it. For that
Exactly.
equipment.
Does it have to be brand new? Because you see somebody would buy a tractor for their home, put 50 hours on it, and realize this thing is much more than I need.
some people will buy them for a job they want to do themselves in their yard and then resell too.
Yeah, I mean, the ones we were looking at were brand new, but yeah, if it's like a low mileage one or,
Low hours. Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that either if it's used in good condition.
And then implements can range from $300 to $1,500. once again, used or brand new. It's
Is there does the town or any group in town have a trailer that could be used to move it? Or would each group have to have their own trailer? That would be like ridiculous if you're splitting it to have.
Yeah, just, you'd only need one
But I
trailer.
didn't
Yeah,
know if
the
there was
one-
one already.
So conservation has our own trailer, but if we were gonna get a tractor like that, we've already had the discussion that it would basically be, to move it, we'd need highway department. Because you'd need a bigger, sturdier trailer like they have, you need a bigger truck that they, again, have to move that around. But it would basically just be a phone call to them and say, hey, we need this here, and then they'll put it wherever it needs to be, take the key, and then give the key to whoever is gonna take it out and use it at the site.
But there is also possibilities of, I saw deals where they include a tractor on it where you could spec it out to what you want and they include a trailer. I would hate to put, we can't keep burdening the highway crew because they're already understaffed and in demand.
They are.
All right. I think it was good discussion on that. So, Andy, if you could lead up by looking at that draft and sending it out.
Yeah, I'll send it around and give some comments, some feedback from everybody in the group, and then we can open it up for discussion next meeting and hopefully finalize it and send it out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Justin Bissett Memorial Field, Jeff Lane Irrigation.
Yep. So I just want to touch base on that. I talked to Natticook there. They have nearly completed installing the irrigation in the common areas. I don't know if you guys remember, but he did the fields last fall or whatever. And he was waiting for baseball to basically finish up the construction that we had outside the fences, get it all buttoned up before he installed it out there. All that stuff's done now, and the irrigation's pretty well installed. He's got a few things to button up, and he'll be done soon.
Now, is he also going to do like a seeding and a little leveling of the soil and all that kind of stuff? Is that included?
It wasn't included, no, but he said he may do that on his own.
So what happened was when the parking lot got put in, they also came over and they put in a batting cage area for us. And when they did that, they loamed and regraded a lot of the area.
Oh, okay.
And they hydro seeded.
And they hydroseeded at the point so it all didn't run off. So there's a decent base started right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And any work that is done over there, that's underneath the
Impact fees.
impact fees, gentlemen.
Yeah, so I think something we as a board should look at is Natticook actually bid this 2 years ago at the price points of 2 years ago. And as we heard about materials going up, I think the right thing to do, because he held off for us, is maybe see what was the price creepage due to material. As we all know, PVC is hard to get these days. Valves have gone up, heads have gone up. I think the right thing to do is try to find out what percentage did it go up. Did it go up 20%, 30%, and help offset? We do have enough impact fees that we could cover it.
Yep. I think that's
I
the
think it's the
appropriate thing to do. Also, as
appropriate and fair thing. It's
I was saying also about bringing in more loam, I believe let's just get it all done once, get
Correct.
it done nicely. Let's not pick away at this. If we need more loam, we have the impact fees. They're in place. Utilize them to get it completely finished.
because he had been paid for everything of the work he did. We held
Right.
back a certain portion of it because of the common area. I think it was done on number of heads, or did you end up?
It was
doing it?
area.
Square footage. So we
Yeah.
held back a certain piece of it.
I don't remember what the
And that right now, I guarantee you, with the price going up, I'm sure it's a loss for him to go finish it.
Revamp the price quote.
So, I think if you could reach out, Andy, and just
Yeah,
see what the
I can-
creepages on the project.
Yeah, I can find that out.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move on. Pavilion Reservations, Mr. Town.
Yeah, so right now, the pavilion at Roy Memorial is not
Not
reservable for anything. But I know there are groups that like to plan ahead. And it's hard to do that if you don't know, you're going to show up 50 people and another group of 50 people is going to show up at the same day because nobody knew what anybody else was doing. So, sort of like Talent Hall, especially in the nicer weather, it would be nice to be able to say, we're going to meet outside under the pavilion on a certain date and time for some event, and know that it would be available for that purpose.
I don't know the background on why it was never reservable. Maybe just because it's an open area.
Probably just
Did Rec
History.
build it? Or was it, I thought,
Asked our
I'm-
historian.
thinking back several years when there was first talk of it, that it was, I don't know if it was I don't know if we have like a retirement group or what it was. It's, I remember talk of a couple groups like collaborating with it. I don't think Rec was one
So-
of them, but I'm not sure.
So honestly, it predates my time with Rec.
Yeah.
I do know that Rec did have all the costs, like the cost layout of everything, and the plans. I think it was, because I think I got a copy of them. I think Keith sent me a copy of them at one point when we were looking to build the smaller one at Sawmill, when soccer was building the smaller one at Sawmill. So I think in the end, I think it did fall under the Rec, but I'm probably pretty sure that many other groups contributed to
Okay.
it, like happens frequently.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of reservation, though, it doesn't really matter, right? Because we
No,
control
it's-
so-
It's ours. It's under Rec at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason I think we haven't tried to, we haven't in the past done reservations is because it's outdoors, because it's right by the
concession
playground,
stand,
because there are other activities going on there all the time. You have to basically say it's completely closed to, okay, if someone's on the playground and it starts to rain and they want to jump under there, then you can't. Or if there's something happening in the field, do we close off if the field's being used, are we not going to let the pavilion be used at the same time? So I think it's one of those conflicts where it's kind of hard to judge, but you know, I mean, I think that was just the reasoning of the past. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just trying to explain.
I
where it
can
came
see
from.
that. If games are going on, concessions open, picnic tables are under there,
Mhm.
people are getting food, they go and sit out of the sun in the shade at picnic tables.
Oh.
So I can see how.
I don't think, maybe I should make a motion before we have discussion, or
No, we should we'll
Just
talk about it and
discussion.
then we'll make a
See where
motion
it
next
goes.
time see where it goes.
okay. So if it's not reserved, then it ought to be open to whoever's there. You know, first come, first serve.
That's how it is. now.
Yeah, and that's the way it is now. But if somebody wants to plan an event, I think it's reasonable that they ought to be able to do that. And it's, I don't expect it's going to be on a regular basis, but it's going to be, one-off events. And it's reasonable, I think, to be able to plan
I do
plan an
agree with
event
you in
and
that
know that you can
aspect.
go there and there won't be another group doing the same thing at the same time in the same place.
The hard thing, I've had people ask, can I have it for a birthday party, etc. How do we close it
Yeah.
off? How do we indicate that it is being reserved? We're with a sports field, when the team shows up, the league can say, no, we got the field today, you have to move. But how do you do that with a pavilion?
So
An open air pavilion?
could we even make it reservable for private parties like that? I mean, we don't do that with talent, right?
No, we can't do it
Can't do a
with
birthday party
private,
with talent.
but he's saying like if the Boy Scouts have something going on, it's almost kind of falls under the parking lot theory too, is we really, the parking lot is our jurisdiction, but it's hard to reserve. How do you say, no, you can't
Yeah.
park there, you can't?
And the parking lot's pretty much, if you're using the park, you're going to use the parking lot that goes with it. And I know that on several different occasions, the scouts have gone there and planned events for the day, and there was nobody there because we do it in the middle of winter or something, and it's not a problem. But on other occasions, I could see that it would be.
I think I was out there Sunday. I think that was the first time I've ever seen anybody in it using it. There was a group of people out there, like 15 people, but
Yeah,
that's why I was like, I don't know if we need to
Yeah.
have it reserved. I mean, the demand just doesn't seem that.
I mean, we utilized it one night.
I think
I
That
do
was
know,
great.
I do know people use it.
Do they?
Yeah, people
Yeah.
have had birthday parties down there and softballs used it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and 95% of the time it's not a problem.
Yeah. It's
But
just
it's
that.
you just can't plan to go there, right? If you want to have an outdoor event, you can't go to a park in town. That doesn't seem reasonable.
So I'd be supportive of making it a reservable space. I think we've got enough requests over time where I believe there is interest in people reserving it. I think, the upside is you take the stress out of organizations trying to do planning, right? And the logistics with that, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of the same impact as far as someone's there first, then the other group doesn't get to use it. So I don't think it has much of a downside, but the upside is the organization trying to plan is no stress. They know it's there and it helps with their planning purposes. I think private events would still be not something we would approve, birthday parties, that kind of thing. But for the organizations, I think that would be helpful to them. So I don't see much downside in reserving it, because in the instance of it's a rainstorm, that kind of thing, there would already be a group there, which is the exact same situation we have now, where it's first come, first serve. So I don't think it would be like pushing people out that would have otherwise gotten it. I just think it helps with the planning for organizations that want to have some type of event.
So would there be caveats such as it's already a sporting event that day? Would we still allow the pavilion to be reserved? So that's where it gets into,
During
because if you
games,
have,
yeah.
let's say you have a soccer match going, right?
Yeah.
And someone's out there and they're gonna in between games, they're gonna eat there.
Mhm.
It's already taken care of. Or
Yeah,
there's a baseball
softball.
game going, a softball game going on,
Free
concession stands
at a
open.
time.
People may
Yeah.
want to go in there and eat between it. So,
Good point.
I mean, are there gonna be caveats? Look at what other usage we have in the field today, and then say yay or nay based off of that.
Yeah, you'd have to, because again, you can't to reserve that area when you have a bunch of other things going on around it. You're basically closing it off. You're basically saying no, everyone has to stay out of that. So if you're doing that, then you can't have the runoff of a softball game or middle school soccer or whatever's happening in the field at that time, and that's fine. But going back to your point, this would be the same. This would be a facility request. So therefore, you'd have to have the same things you have in line for any other facility. You need a certificate of insurance. You need, if you're an organization that meets with children over the course of time, then you need to be approved by to have the New Hampshire camps submitted as well.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not quite sure I understand. So let's say it's a Saturday at Dara and there's 3 fields being used for softball, games back to back like there would be in season, that the pavilion could be rented, and then the people who are there for games would not be allowed to go under and use the picnic table to sit and eat, or softball would have to request the pavilion as part of their game days on the weekend.
That's what I was coming up with.
I'm,
What are the
trying to
caveats
understand.
around it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the conversations going on, I wasn't quite
Yeah.
sure what way it was going.
How busy is the
And-
pavilion during soccer games? I haven't been there to see.
I've never been down there
Like
during a
it's-
soccer match.
Yeah,
so-
soccer's only in the afternoon. You know what I mean? That's.
But when it's going on, is the pavilion
Honestly,
also populated? That's the question.
Sometimes, like
If it's hot out,
we're only
people go
talking,
out.
we're only talking middle school games. We're talking middle school games between 3 and 5 during the week normally. So, is it times that other people reserve it? I don't know, but is it enough where you have that entire side? You have that entire side filled with fans. That's the fan side right by the pavilion. So. You can't. You'd almost be impossible to have an event in the pavilion and contain yourself just to pavilion, and have a game going on at the same time, and not have some sort of cross back and forth.
Right.
Softball's different because softball. It's a lot more. You're there for a longer period of time. The concession stand's open. If you want a table, you're going under there.
That's where all the tables are. Yeah.
Has there ever been a conflict? Anybody
I don't think
know of
so.
any conflict there where somebody's gone down and tried to use it and there's been a group there that told them they can't be there?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's really worth it. And then you run into issues with people in town that do want to use it and don't know that they need to reserve it, whether it's a private, birthday party or something and don't know I just think it's a lot of,
Even though you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
reserve it anyway.
you wouldn't be able to reserve it, but if they go down and somebody else is there and,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Then they
Yeah.
get upset that they can't
yeah,
use it.
Yeah, well, I didn't know you had to reserve it, or,
Gotcha.
it could end up being a headache, I think.
Bring a pop-up tent and make your own pavilion.
Or maybe it depends what's going on. When there was a band that played there a couple summers ago, did they play under the pavilion or in front of it?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
That
What
was,
was
oh,
it?
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I think they may have been in more on the grass because I think I remember people sitting under the
Yeah.
I don't know.
What if I guess it would, I'm just thinking if you just make it reservable for special occasions, I guess, like, I don't know, but I guess
Yeah, I think
anytime
that's
it's
what it
reservable,
would
it's
be,
a special occasion.
But it goes back to what Mike says. If you're
Yeah,
going to
it's-
reserve it,
Now you have to
insurance.
Yeah.
And then, and again, if you're gonna do it, my guess to make it the most logical is you're probably not, if the fields are being used during those times, you're probably not going to say you can reserve it during those times.
If the concession stands are open, that might make sense. If there's games going on that aren't using the concession stands, I wouldn't see any conflict there.
But it's not open. Concession's not open during the LMS soccer.
Right.
And there's people on that whole
But
side of
there's
it.
that sidelines, they're all on that
Yes.
sideline. So it's not, it's not like softball where you're basically at the fields. Soccer is that entire grass area going down.
It is. There's a
that
lot of
stretch.
people
Yeah.
there.
So,
If
And
it's
then-
raining, I imagine people go under it too while they're watching.
right.
I mean, so the really only conflict comes down to is during softball season.
Right.
And in the last couple of years, we haven't even opened the concession stand,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
when LMS is playing. Because there's really no rec soccer there, right?
No, we don't
Yeah.
use that field at all.
So that's usually what it's used for, those two sports. So the majority of the time, it's probably going to be open anyways.
Yeah. So, if it makes sense to say that it's not reservable during those times because the fields are busy and, there's going to be overflow, then that sets an expectation. Nobody is going to plan to do something that day because they know that there's something else going on. And it's almost like another one of the fields, right? You want to
Right.
plan
Oh,
to
yeah.
use it when nobody else is there. It's not all the recreation is in a field.
No. Honestly, for me, either way, you want to make it reservable. It's just setting up what our process is to,
Right.
if we're going to say it's reservable, then there needs to be the same, what are the standards we're setting for it? The same things we said for reserving facilities, which is an insurance binder and background, the New Hampshire camps, if
Skills camp.
that's the the clientele of that you're using it for, and a request.
Yeah.
And then how do we determine the conflicts? It's unlike a field where you can say like, okay, you're going to be on this field, whatever. That is more of a common area to the field, to the playground as well, where you're not scheduling anything on the playground, but if you're reserving it, you're taking away its use from the playground, which I'm not saying is right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a thought. But if the fields are all being occupied, then just in a logical sense, it's going to probably get some use. And to be like, no, you have multiple games going on there, or a big game going on there, and you say, no, you can't. No one can use that because someone else is using it, is really kind of taking away part of the purpose it's there for.
All right.
So I guess it would depend on when the request was for, whether something established was already going on, like
If there's a soccer game,
Saturday.
if
Right,
there's
so
soccer
it's-
games
it's a
going on.
conflict. It's just like anything else. Is there a conflict of the field or not a conflict of the field? That's it.
Yeah.
Put it in simple terms. Yeah.
If there's soccer games going on, you shouldn't plan to have an event in the pavilion because it's going to be busy.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so if you feel you want to pursue this, how about next meeting, put it on the agenda and we'll bring it to a vote, make a motion. Signs on rope course. I know you mentioned this last time. You want to put,
Yeah, so the current signs on the ropes course say it can't be used without authorization, but there's no indication of who's authorized
Or who to contact.
or who to contact for it. So it seems reasonable to have some sign that lets you know who to contact. And the other point is that right now they're just plain closed because the inspection hasn't been done and they're not insured and it's just completely closed. And I think it makes sense to have, one or both of those signs posted on both courses. I don't know what kind of liability the town has without the sign that says it's closed. And if there's no indication of who's authorized, what the heck, just go for it. Right? There's that risk.
There could be a sign there say with authorization. People will be like, "Oh, what the heck?
Yeah,
No one's
still
here."
going on it.
That's true too. I'm just trying to reduce possibilities.
plausible deniability.
Yeah.
So if you feel you want to get some signs, have them made up, we could expense them. Some of them, currently closed, whatever is something you probably pick up anywhere. If not, we could have, there's plenty of sign makers online. It's not something the town garage would do. DPW. I don't think they make signs, right? They purchase them.
That makes a lot of signs.
That makes
A lot
sense.
of signs. All you gotta do is have them laminated at the town hall and then nail it up with some chicken wire over it. Your own custom sign takes 5 minutes and it costs basically like cents, couple cents to do.
You think that would be enough? Or are you thinking more?
I
something
think that's.
permanent?
Is it still under school jurisdiction though?
Steve and I got a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, that's something
I'm
that.
like,
That's another night.
That's
There's a few actions we have to take, but we think it might be rather simple to get it under the purview of the rec commission.
Yep.
But there's a couple more points.
I mean,
we
I know
gotta
it's
go
on
after
our
that.
property, but it's not technically ours, so.
Well,
But
we're still kind of going down that path too.
Yeah, I
we are
mean,
moving
but are we
forward.
ultimately responsible if somebody gets hurt there and there's no sign, or
It's town. It's
town
a tough one.
property.
It's not
It's
on
not
it's
cut and
not
dry,
on the
huh?
insurance rider right now.
okay,
So
We're working with town Troy and town legal to figure out what we have to do.
it's a big gray area.
There's a lot to go on. I'm definitely interested in pursuing it. I think it should be under the rec. I still have that attitude, and that's the road I'm taking. And so we're just at this time, we're working with Troy to figure out where it stands. What do we have to do? How do we engage the school? Who owns the equipment? There's a long
but we'll
list of
just put
things.
up the signs as if it is, park closed
Well,
or whatever.
it is our property, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should take some action to notify it's closed.
So I think a couple more weeks, you and I will know more of what's
Yeah.
going on.
We do have money allocated. I have money allocated in the budget where we can pay for the insurance, not the insurance, the
Inspection.
inspection. And I think that's something that we may want to do so that he could at least figure out what he has to do next year to maintain it. I think he said it was $2,000 to $3,000 a year, but before we do that, we have to be careful because that could also say that we are now some liability. So
Just need a little more time.
yeah, one more time, but we are moving forward with it. Get some signs, work with Matt if you want, or whatever. And if there's any expense to it, let me know and I'll get you approved. Remote meeting policy. Troy Brown provided guidelines around this policy. State law says that we must have a physical quorum and we can vote to allow a remote participant to join remotely. If this occurs, all voting must occur in a roll call fashion like we were doing before, where you have to call your name, say aye, what have you on TV. I think they're trying to restrict it to people that may be out with COVID or illness and they do not want to be in the meeting with us, which I totally respect.
Yeah, also, if you're traveling,
If you're traveling, we can't have most of it. We have to have a quorum, and I think they want to reduce it to one, maybe two, right?
Yeah. So you have to have a quorum in the room, and then there has to be a roll call vote to allow the
To allow
person to
it to-
participate or not.
Yep.
And then after that, every vote has to be a roll call vote.
And then, so if that occurs, if you feel for any of those reasons you don't want to be in the facility, let me know beforehand so that we can work with John Brunel to get a WebEx.
Yep. We do have a set WebEx now.
Do we?
We just did that the other day.
He sent that out.
So-
Can we do what it was before?
Yeah, definitely.
So- one comment. So I wanted to chat about this to see if we could just make this a standing option for the meetings for two reasons. Number one, I think, to allow public access for public input would just be a good option going forward. I think, pandemic aside, I thought that was a really good option for, the residents of the town. So that I liked just as a standing option for folks to remote in. For members of the committee, I think I don't think it's a heavy burden to just vote to approve it and then do a roll call, because we've had instances where people have been traveling, or if you're ill with COVID or what else, I think we'd all prefer them to stay home but they can still participate, which I think is valuable. So I don't see much of a downside to, just having that as an option going forward as just a routine part of our meetings. If we use it, great. If we don't, that's fine too, but it still allows the public to remote in for comment.
It's a
And
valuable
watch.
tool to have. Last night, we utilized it for two things for the selectmen meeting, and it made the presentation so much better by having them do it remotely on WebEx, shared the screen. Everybody watching could see exactly what they were talking about.
Yep.
Being in the room, they may or may not have seen it if camera wasn't on the TV.
Do we have to vote this policy in, or is this just the town policy?
This is state policy.
State policy. So we don't have to vote it in.
Nope.
Yeah, it's
Nope,
just,
it's just
we have the option
informational.
now.
Yeah, informational, just give us a heads up if you're going to be out so that we can make sure that you're not here, and we'll do a roll call to include you. But I agree, Peter, I've been a remote worker for 20 years, so
There you go.
Mhm.
You're ahead of the curve.
Well,
there's so much value.
question on that, because is it, we can allow the public to remote in anytime they want. This is more of a board quorum issue in
Correct.
terms of voting.
Well, but we haven't had a web link for the last couple of meetings. So I guess what I'm suggesting is we have that as a standing, just always out there for every meeting. And if we have members that need to remote in, that's just already there for them.
Yeah, we didn't have it for the last few meetings because it was the burden on one individual,
Yeah.
a citizen who had to take care of,
Right.
get it up and running. He had to be present the whole entire time.
Yeah.
We've now have the technology that it can be run back by LCTV.
Okay.
So it's a little bit easier now than it was in the past,
Gotcha.
because the individual who did it, I think for 16 months, attended every single meeting the town had in order to keep it up and running. Sat there and listened to every meeting. So it was a heavy task that was put upon him.
So then going forward, how would we know if someone's going, do we have to bring up WebEx every time?
Yes.
Just set it up at the
Just set it
beginning
up
of the
if somebody
meeting.
wants to.
Should we start doing that? Just to see if
You can do it easy from back there, right?
It's as easy now as just clicking a button to say start the meeting.
Yeah.
So when you post the agenda, you could just post that link with it, all the information, and people can come in that way.
It's the same link that John sent out earlier.
That's going to
for
be the
all
normal one.
meetings.
So if we just put that at the top of our agendas, that if somebody wants to remote in from a public input,
Yep.
just have that. It
And
gives
then
them
we
the,
can just dial in and see if anybody's there.
yeah, we just put it up on the screen. If
Just leave
nobody's
it up.
there, nobody's there.
Yeah, it's not even a call, right?
No.
The video would be there.
Video.
I need to remote in when I'm not here. Those years when there were only four of us sitting around this thing the whole time.
All right. Any other top discussion on that? All right.
Good idea.
Xmas and Litchfield requested assistance this year for their event in the form of some seed money. We do have a line item for PR program expenses. There's $1,800 in that line item. This has been basically a clerical movement by Mrs. Karen White just to transfer the money from one to the other. So basically, I guess it comes down to I'd need a motion to approve providing Xmas and Litchfield $500 of seed money to help them.
I think it's to purchase their supplies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just transfer the line item.
just transfer.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 700. Thank you. I will notify Karen. This is something I just were talking about earlier. Last night, I don't know how many of you people are as much of a geek as I am. I know your husband is. Watched the Board of Selectmen meeting. They were engaged a New Hampshire-based company with the intent of replacing the legacy street lights with new LED heads. One of the things that they talked about is they will also, if we have buildings like Town Hall, if we have the old bulbs at Town, they would consider replacing those as well. It would be, a cost to us, obviously. Or if there's a street light in Sawmill or wherever, I think it's a good idea that we should be included in that as well. I did reach out to the Board of Selectmen, asked them to include us in this when they're going around. I assume we would have anyways.
Mhm.
They're going to take a big approach at all the lights in town. So if there's anything big and old and burning a lot of energy, we're going to see if we could have them replace it.
So we're taking a two-pronged approach. First, we're going to go out and do an assessment on all the streetlights in town. Based off of the resources we have, they think there's 46 lights. And payback, if we go to LED, will be 2.3 years.
Is that many?
In this entire time.
So the funny part was, I'm like, I never remember seeing a streetlight in this town. But driving home from Town Hall, I did find 4 of them. First time I ever noticed there were streetlights in the town. So after, while they're out doing that assessment, we can ask them it's no charge to the town to go out and assess all our parking lights, lights in this building, any of our town-owned property, and they can come back with a proposal for those also. Let's do it. I couldn't believe it was 2.3 years you paid back.
That's pretty good.
That was an impressive.
It was a great presentation. And if they were in this room, you would not have seen it the same exact way. Because being via WebEx, you got to see the whole slideshow and everything they were speaking to.
All right, old business. Trying to move through this quickly, people. ADA compliance swings. I mentioned before I received a quote from our playground vendor on 2 swings that can be added to the current empty swing set. Excuse me. One is an inclusive therapeutic swing with the seat and chain for $1,300. The other one is a slash-proof seat for $134. Total of $1,656.55. This can come from line item 730 PR facilities improvement capital outlay, which has $3,500 in it. So I will make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 ADA compliant swings for a total of $1,656.55 from line item 730 from PR facilities improvement capital outlay.
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Purchase and installation? Or just purchase?
Nope, just purchase. When you fix the slide.
Yeah.
I can't reach it. I'm just too short. I can sit on your shoulders, maybe. Any other
We're going to
discussion?
solicit help for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. When I went down there digging up the posts of the slide, I'll have to dig the footings, so I don't know if they're open.
Yeah.
No, that's just a matter of bolting it to the
One
existing.
on the existing.
Yeah, it should be easy.
Hangers are already there. Yeah, we'll
Famous
Shia do
last
it.
words. Should.
We'll get shy at
Yeah, and you can
He's
sit on our
tall.
shoulders.
I think we'd rather hang the swing, though, than straighten out the slide.
You and I got swing duty.
That's right. We've dug enough holes.
All right. Let's put it to a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 700. I will submit that quote to the vendor. Town hall capacity, Jeff Town.
Yeah, so current policy is that the capacity of town hall is limited to 50 people based on a decision of this group. I believe that we ought to follow the guidance of the public health officials. I don't think I'm smarter than they are. And I think it's reasonable at this stage that we follow the CDC guidance and state guidance and selectmen guidance on the capacity of town hall. My rough measurement of the building was like, the main room was like 50 by 75 feet. So if we gave everybody 6 feet distance equally spaced, of course, people don't behave that way, but if they did, we could fit a little over 100 people in there socially distanced. And the current CDC guidance would say you don't even need masks to have that many people, and that's a recommendation, not a requirement. And if you're in a crowded space, they recommend that people wear masks. The rated capacity of Talent Hall is north of 400. So that would be a crowded space, and the CDC would say you should be wearing masks. My personal opinion is that even at half that capacity, I would want to be wearing a mask in there. But I think a limit of 50 over constrains the use of the facility. And I don't think our public health judgment is better than that of the professionals, so we shouldn't second guess their guidance.
So
Hold on.
there's one, oh, sorry.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
Oh, a motion.
Yes.
All right. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion. Go ahead. Chief.
So the CDC guidelines, that's based for everyone everywhere, or is it, I mean, like in New Hampshire, things are town by town based on hotspots or whatever you want to call your higher areas, or have we, since I wasn't involved in setting up that guideline, have we seen significant changes that would make us as a board feel like we've seen significant changes with decreases in COVID and what it was when we made this decision for 50 that makes us feel like, oh, we can change that and double the amount of people in there?
I think
Am I
50 was a number we arbitrarily picked out based off of the lack of ventilation within it.
Okay.
I did ask the fire chief, and he had the interim building inspector go out there, and they measured the space out there. And if you looked at the life safety requirements of 15 square feet per person for use with tables and chairs and 7 square feet for just chairs, they came up with a number. They said, however, to allow for 6 feet of social distancing, basically the calculation moves to 36 square feet per person without any tables and chairs. So that would allow a capacity of 130 people and stay socially distanced if people stayed within.
And the ventilation is fine.
They never commented on it or anything. So when they look at it more of a fire code standpoint.
Right.
Is how they break it down. But we asked the question that what would it be at 6 foot distance between people? So based on that calculation, they came back with 130 people.
Has ventilation changed at all since this first?
Steve bought a couple fans.
A couple big fans. and
No,
some-
like, because you mentioned that number kind of came out of ventilate. Because
I think it was an arbitrary number we
Whatever.
picked.
Yes.
okay. For
You know,
ventilation.
and I personally look at it, okay, 50 people, if they're playing a sport and all the parents are crammed in the stage is one thing. But if you took an organization that was going to drop down a movie screen, set up tables and chairs, you think the number would be so much more than 50.
Yeah, and I guess that's my problem with it is that if you have 100 people in there playing basketball, you have a big problem.
Well, you're not going to be able to keep clear space.
Exactly.
But if
But
you
if
had
you have
100
100 people
people
watching a
chairs.
movie, like Steve said, I mean, I get
Right.
that's a big difference. But
Right.
then how do you limit, what activities can have what amount of people?
I don't think it makes sense for us to do that kind of fine-grained regulation of, if you're breathing too hard, then you got to reduce the number of people. And you got to some extent, trust the judgment of the people who are using the facility to do what makes sense for their group.
And also, if there's people who don't like it, they don't have to attend.
Nobody's
Personal
locked
choice.
in, right?
On top of that.
Yeah.
And the other part is we have zero enforcement on. So if somebody goes and violates it, we have, other than not allowing them to use it again, we have no other enforcement on.
So basically, 300 people could go in there and we have no,
You might violate the
Right.
fire code at that point. The fire chief could go down and do
Right.
something about
okay,
it.
but
But
yeah.
if you stayed,
it's under the
if
fire
somebody,
code.
if we said 50 and somebody showed up there with 100 people,
Yeah.
other than someone taking a photo and putting it on social media or one of us being there, how else would we know?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't know.
You have to trust
So
your
it comes down to personal judgment, personal choice, personal safety.
Without COVID, what's the max capacity?
I would have to go back and ask. I don't
Okay.
know.
The sign in the building says 439
Yeah, I believe it.
with chairs or without tables. And
Yeah. Because I know when we do
200
comedy
something.
shows, we're limited to about 210, 220, I think the number
Yeah, I
was,
thought it
200.
with table and chairs.
Yeah.
230 something.
Yeah.
No.
My biggest concern with this whole thing in the amount of people in there is that It is not a facility cleaned every day.
Oh,
We do not clean it every day. There's not a regular schedule. We don't even have a schedule for it right now.
Yep.
So you're by having more and more, if we raise the capacity and have more and more people in there, we really should figure out a way to have it cleaned more regularly or, more intensely.
Yeah.
Because now you're opening it up. So you're going to open it up to more people. By limiting people, we limited the amount of people in there. We limit the amount of germs
Stuff in the air.
somewhat.
Yeah.
But when you put in more
Mummies.
people, it's just more dirt. Like, honestly, it's the biggest thing with talent always used to be the floor. I mean, that was it. The floor never got cleaned. That was a big problem then. So now you're compounding this by bringing in more people to use everything else. That's my biggest concern, not the amount of people in there at one time. If it was 100 people in there at one time, and then they left and it was cleaned the end of the day, even great. But we don't clean. It's not cleaned.
So I think if you go back and you look at the CDC universal guidelines, I haven't looked at them in a while. When they finally came out of COVID, one of the statements was, as an employer, employee, or whatever, you should have sanitation, hand sanitizer, wipes, and so forth available at the premise.
Mhm.
So workspaces, common areas can be cleaned by the individuals utilizing them. And that was their guideline on what to do moving forward.
To
And as you see, we have hand sanitizer all the way through
Right.
here and
Perfect.
in the common area and so what. And that's, I mean, but at the bare minimum, we would need that everywhere down at Town Hall.
people
And then we'd
are-
also have to get the custodian on a more regular basis to be
It
in
would
there.
almost have to be daily if you're
based,
Well, are we really using it?
based on usage.
we will be.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
other
when
problem.
we
to
start
look
doing
at.
that, we should. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see the issue we're going to run into quickly is if you have teams in there, then you have parents watching, you're quickly going over the 50 capacity. We have no enforcement.
Correct.
The scouts wanted to go in there and they have 75. And if anybody's a good steward of being, making sure to follow policy.
And they were going to set tables and chairs spaced out. So
Yeah, they were restricted and they were wearing masks. So my concern is I do believe 50 is too restrictive. I certainly don't want to jump up to 400.
So
The other, go
We're
ahead.
gonna let Peter talk.
yeah, so I would want to maintain the 50 cap for the moment for a couple of reasons. First, to your point, like things are going in the wrong direction, right? Like things are actually worse than when we set that policy of 50. So there's substantial community spread. The timing I don't think is optimal right now. Things are checking in the wrong direction. Yeah, but that cap was conservative for sure, but that hall is not conducive to optimal conditions. The ventilation is poor. We don't have routine cleaning. It's not a space that is routinely improved for the issues that we're facing with COVID. I'm all for following the public health guidelines. So yeah, definitely we can have increased capacity with the 6-foot distancing. But the reality is we know people aren't, it's not like you're setting up desks and people are going to stand there. They are mixing, they're close together. And if we're following the public health guidelines, then there would be masking involved in that situation where people are not maintaining 6-foot distance. So I don't want to pick one public health guideline, but not another if we're going that route. I think setting a conservative standard based on the conditions of that hall makes sense for the time being. Now, I think we should revisit it. There has been demand for that hall, but we have not seen a ton of requests above that 50 cap. So I don't think it's an overly huge burden on the town at the moment. But I think we should revisit it as conditions change. At the moment, they're changing in the wrong direction. So I wouldn't support changing it at this time, but would be happy to revisit it again in the future for sure.
So another step that we could take is to put air filters with UV lights in Talent Hall, and we can get those. They're a couple $100 a piece, and they cover depends on it could be up to 2,000 square feet for each unit. Those could run in there 24/7. And the UV, if you get a filter with the UV lights, that will kill the virus. So between groups, if it's running overnight, you've had plenty of opportunity to clean the air, even with the limited ventilation. There's still an issue of the limited ventilation while people are in there, and people are free and recommended to wear masks if there's a significant number of people in there, and I would I would do that myself. But I wouldn't, I would follow
Is
the
there a
public health
change in
guidelines.
electricity costs? Do we have the money to, I'm so new to the committee that I don't know a lot of these answers.
That's something
So
we'd
that's
have to
like,
investigate.
what, do we have money in the budget to cover the cost of electricity or something like that? I have no idea what it would cost to run
Something like that would be would
I don't-
have to look at the,
I don't think
We'd have
that
to
would
dig
be a
into.
big issue.
Yeah.
The amount of power, the capital cost of the devices themselves.
Regardless of
certainly
capacity, it's
consider-
Probably a good idea just to step it up down there with sanitizer stations on the walls and
Yeah.
probably signage,
touchless
you should wear a mask
faucets.
if you're not vaccinated.
Yeah, especially with all
stuff
these
like
new
that.
groups coming in.
With it ramping up down there, absolutely.
There is something that Troy is also pursuing. I don't remember what it was called, but it's going to be some COVID money available to towns where we may be able to utilize some of it to do that kind of stuff.
Opera funds.
Opera funds, replace the make everything touchless. Adding sanitizers and sanitizer stations and stuff like that. That's easy, but bringing a lot of the stuff up to the latest and greatest, where reduce the touch.
When would that be available? Any idea?
We already received our first payment, but the problem is it's almost a reverse grant. They won't tell you what it's for, so you have to go spend it, then apply. And if they come back and say it's not a usable,
It's not covered.
you have to pay the money back. So
Okay. So something like air filters might be covered by that.
it might be. So that's the thing, but you don't know, but that's a low enough cost that we could probably absorb in a budget. If you often, let's hypothetically look at a fire truck. You go and buy a fire truck, next thing you know, they don't approve it. You're sitting on $680,000, $700,000. Now you have to pay back.
Our expense would be much slower.
That would be
Right.
hard.
But I mean, those are the two. I mean, our stuff, couple of $1,000. All right, we can find a way to do it. But if you're going to go try and find $700,000 in a $6 million budget, it's not easy to do.
I mean, if that's the case, is it worth trying to get the fans working up in the ceiling there?
I know. I don't even know what's going on with those.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just don't work.
Yeah.
You turn the switch and
Oh, I've done it many times.
Yeah,
I'm
me
like, when
too.
did they stop working? I even went back to see if I can find what breaker fed them, and everything's on.
All right. Any
be the
other
switch.
discussion? All right. So the motion has been moved and seconded. We've already had a discussion to approve the request to increase the current capacity of town hall from the current 50 limitation to 100 without masks. Is that true?
Well, the motion was to just follow the public health guidelines, which don't have a specific number. If you wanted to pick the number that Steve gave us, I think that would make sense, which was
From
did
the
you
fire
say?
inspector, which was 130.
130.
That's maintaining 6-foot distance.
So
then-
that, I think that would be very consistent with the current public health guidelines.
Okay, so the motion to remove the current capacity limitations of 50 to 130, according, without masks.
Are
Say
we,
with 6 feet of distance, or the distance doesn't matter?
That was with 6 feet.
That was the calculation based on 6 feet of distance
Okay.
between.
Are we regularly, are we in the process, or will we be getting regular cleaning in there?
We just got to tell them when we want it cleaned. I mean, we have money in the budget. I think it was cleaned either two or three times a week prior to COVID is when he went in there and cleaned it.
And who do we tell, and how do we get that
We just
going?
tell Troy, and he gets Jerry in the cycle of going to do it.
Okay.
And he's got the whole mystery. He can mist everything down. He does it to all the common areas here in the town hall. So. Surprised we don't see him tonight walking around with his little Mr. Misting everything.
So you say
So
Mike,
capacity of 130, I guess is the
without
motion.
masks? All right,
do you have to include that in there?
I wouldn't even mention masks.
yeah, to 130. All right. Motion has been moved to and seconded to approve the request to increase the current capacity of town hall from the current limit of 50 heads to 130. Can I have a roll call vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? So 4-4. No, 4-3. 4-3.
4-3. I can't vote.
Steve Beth.
Yeah. So
He hasn't got your name right or wrong yet tonight. He's staying away from
you
it.
don't know how I have it written down here either. All right, so carried 4-3. And we will reach out to Troy to try to get Jerry down there on a, I guess we'll have to try to figure out a schedule.
So I think what we might want to do is when we look at the usage, try to schedule the days based off the usage. On the heaviest usage days, get them in on those days.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing we can do.
Well,
You don't want them to show up on a, you don't want them to show up on a Monday and no one's going to use it to a Thursday.
Is he on a Monday through Friday schedule?
He does it at night, yes. He does Monday through Friday at night.
So, I mean, it's,
I mean, you probably could get him on a weekend too if you needed to.
well, no, I'm just saying it's, I mean, if pickleball is going to be in there every day now. So, I mean, it's going to be usage all the time.
But I also think we need to get to the point that each individual group does their due diligence and cleans also.
That's what I was
And I think
gonna
we
say.
got to kind of push it down.
Respect
We as a
the
town have
process.
the cleaning supplies there for them.
Yeah.
But I think every group has to be conscientious and take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the right thing to do.
right.
Does it make sense to post a sign inside the building saying the capacity is 130 and here's what you ought to do when you use it?
I'd be all for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Another sign added to the list.
I can.
Have we declined any requests based on numbers in there? I'm just trying to think.
Nothing,
Sort of.
nothing
Okay.
based on
From
numbers.
anything from the
Yeah,
high
it's
school
sort
or
of-
something.
sort of
I
depends.
thought,
Yeah,
Captain, yeah.
the Scouts, because they would have been over, they were at
okay, I thought the
75.
high school at one point requested something for a night, but I might be mistaken.
No, oh, they did, the boosters did
Yes.
paint night
Paint night.
and
Yeah, the two.
two of them. And
But they kept it.
well, they were hoping to keep it that day.
We didn't decline
We didn't
anybody
decline it, but
based
they
on a
said they thought
number.
it was going to be below that number.
Okay.
But that has not happened yet either, right?
No.
It's coming up.
Those two
Um,
things, it was paint night and
Sign night? No, is that the same?
Wine night? No.
Sign and wine?
all of them had wine involved.
Both a wine night. Is there really anything else? Like excuse to drink wine night?
Correct.
Do we want to pursue air filters to put in there?
Yeah,
I can
definitely dig it
look
up,
into
see what we can
that.
find, and we'll.
If I remember correctly, there's only one return and I think one heating vent going in. I think it comes out and then comes back in because it goes straight out into that unit, then comes back around.
We should get somebody on those ceiling fans as well.
I think so.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
building needs some electrical revamp. Democrats of Litchfield did submit their certificate of insurance, just for an FYI. Talent Hall deck work. I don't know if anybody's been out there to see it. It looks awesome.
Came out great.
They essentially rebuilt the rear of the Talent Hall. They replaced the deck. They replaced all the rotted sill. They replaced all the rotted T111. They got rid of some bees for us.
They painted.
They painted. It looks splendid. They put
Very nice.
weed barrier down. All we have to do now is get, I think they're done, right? Because there's some material back there I have to pick up.
Yeah, I think the dumpster's still back there.
Yeah, dumpster and some other. We're going to get some rock brought in from Tim's, and then we're going to seed the areas.
I think they even raked the area back there.
It looks
Yeah.
I mean, it was in great shape.
It's,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank Mr. Jim Spots for spearheading this. All the members of the Air National Guard, 157th Civil Engineering Squadron, Senior Master Sergeant Chris LeMay, and Major Anthony Beheny. And Troy was sending them a thank you letter and a plaque.
Yeah, thank you letter you and I signed in a plaque.
It looks awesome. They did such a great job.
Yeah.
They also revamped one of the stairways inside. Some of the other work we have to do when I had the building inspector inside. So when you walk in through the back door, there's that pedestal. We have to tear the carpet off and paint that so you could differentiate that step down from the rest of the landing because it is a trip hazard. Other email asking rec to place porta potties at LMS Field. This isn't something we have done in several years. It's also not really in our purview as it's on the
It's a
school.
GMS field.
GMS Field.
GMS, yep.
So I don't think that's anything that we would be pursuing. We already talked about the ropes courts, and we're still trying to pursue it. We don't have anything for non-public. So the last thing is adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn the Litchfield Recreation Commission meeting for September 28th?
I'll move it.
And I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0. Opposed, abstained, we're all good. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.